maybe.
Hey, that looks promising.
Hopefully. Hello. Okay, this is a good sign. Yes. We are live, I think. Hopefully. If you're out there, let us know that whether or not you can see us. If you can hear us and see us, please leave a comment down below. Yes, this is how you're going to be able to chat live with us the whole time in our webinar. We apologize for not being on here directly at 7:30. We had some technical difficulties. The joy of not being able to test a live video until you go live. But hello! Welcome to the SHEroes live webinar series. This is our very first edition. We are so excited to be here, and I guess we're going to kick things off with some introductions. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. So, hi everybody. My name is Lori McConnell. This is my first live webinar. I'm super excited for this. I feel like I've attended so many webinars throughout my education, so it's nice to be on the other side of it now. And so I'm the owner and founder of Fun Fearless Females. It's a business, a health and wellness business here in Guelph. And the services that I provide cater towards primarily adults with developmental disabilities, but I offer services to anyone, and they center around nutrition. So I'm in school right now to become a certified nutritional consultant practitioner, very wordy. And as well, I provide some fitness coaching, some recreational support, and life skills support to my clients.
And she's just pretty awesome. So my name is Courtney McCarthy, and I am the founder and owner of Loyobo Fit, which stands for Love Your Body Fitness. I'm a certified and insured group fitness instructor and wellness coach. And one of the reasons I started Loyobo Fit is because I have a strong belief in using fitness as a foundation for women, especially women, but both women and men, to have good self-esteem and loving their body and feeling good and finding and being able to recognize their own strengths. So that's kind of how we came together, a shared passion for helping women especially to feel good, to feel better about themselves. And it's why we created SHEroes. So it's a monthly meetup group that we're going to be doing free live chats like this, free live webinars, different in-person meetups, challenges. We have a group on Facebook where we're going to share tips and tricks, all sorts of things to just help you to be your own SHEro. Yeah. So make sure if you have any future ideas or requests for maybe topics that you want us to cover, we really want this to be an interactive experience. So please interrupt us, leave your questions and comments down below, and we will get to them as best as we can, but we will dive right into it.
And honestly, I'm going to say to everyone, there's no such thing as a silly question. Ask anything. The only thing that's silly is not asking your questions.
Yes,
there you go.
Agreed. So we're going to start off with, we've kind of divided everything into 3 parts tonight. So the first part is going to be all about identifying your own strengths. So, yes. Lori, do you want to take it away?
Absolutely. So I'm going to talk about negative self-talk, that inner nagging voice that we all have, and how we can work to, I don't want to say silence it because it's always going to be there, but how we can challenge it. So,
or manage it. That's another good way of putting it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So focusing on the negatives in our lives, it's a general tendency for everyone. So with regards to memory and different life events, some people, they do have a more positive outlook. So, to some it comes natural, but to others they have to work very hard to get there. So, and for most people, they remember the negative things and events in their lives much more strongly. They're more detailed and they're able to recall them more fluently. So the negative emotions from these said events, they generally involve more thinking, and the information is processed more thoroughly than the positive ones. So that's why we tend to ruminate on these events in our lives. So we use stronger words to describe them, especially compared to happier events. They use more of our resources, so our energy through cognition, and consequently our attention. We have to focus more on these events to process them. So I recently read about this experiment, which I thought was really interesting, and it had 2 groups in it. In a nutshell, let's sum it up. So one group, they lost $50. The other group gained $50. And what was most interesting was the distress that the participants expressed from losing the money was greater than the joy from the experiment, from the participants in the experiment who gained the money, right? So there you go. Perfect example of how people focus more on the negative rather than the positives.
And I know, like, I'm so guilty of this so
Absolutely.
often. And I forgot to mention, before we get too into it, please
Cheers.
grab yourself a glass of wine. And this is supposed to be fun. We're talking about serious things, but it's also, we want it to be fun for you guys. So have a glass of wine, grab yourself a drink, and let's enjoy Thursday night.
Absolutely.
Okay, back to talking about negative
the negative
self-talk.
self-talk, yeah. So in addition, these bad events, they wear off much more slowly than the good ones. So that comes back to the ruminating. So the energy that we devote to these events to process them. So now I would like to put an activity out there. So I would like for everyone to write down at least, let's go for 5. So at least 5 really good things that have happened in your life in the past 6 months.
And don't think about it too much. Just write the first
absolutely.
things that come to your mind. Things that made you happy. They don't have to be big things.
No.
They don't have to be huge things. Maybe just you had a good day.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you found $50. Maybe you just
didn't lose $50.
Yeah, you made a goal of yours. Just write them down as they come into your mind. And please share them with us in the comments
Post
below.
them in there. So I'll give you a couple examples. And I'll be honest, for me, it's much harder to recall those happy, pleasant events. So I'm really gonna dig deep and try and pull them out. So for me, a few good things that have happened in the past 6 months. Just getting feedback about my business. So I started it back in August. So even just a simple comment on my Facebook page like, Lori, I really love what you're doing. I think this is great. It's a needed service. Something so simple that took literally 30 seconds for someone to do really left a positive impact for me. So that's something that has happened that's really good.
Do you want me to tell you an event of yours that I remember for you?
Yes, please.
Lori often comes to my classes and we work out together. And you were trying to do that sit and squat movement,
gosh.
and it was
Yes.
she kept trying over and over again, and she just couldn't get all the way up. And then on her, I think it was your 6th attempt,
Probably.
you finally got it. She nailed it. She got all the way up. You could tell she was working so hard, and we both had a little moment. And that's a perfect example. It's a small victory, but that's a really fun victory. Yeah.
And I completely forgot about that. And what's funny is while you were describing that event, I instantly went back to the
5 previous attempts.
The 5 previous, but also the second time that we tried that in a future workout, and I couldn't get it at all. So again, see, you focus on the negative, but Courtney helped me realize, she helped me recall the positive side of it. So most people don't realize it, but as we go through our daily lives, we are constantly thinking about and interpreting the situations that we find ourselves in. So it's as though we have this internal voice inside of us, in our heads, that determines how we perceive every single situation that we're a part of. So, like I mentioned before, what this is called is our inner voice, so self-talk. And specifically, we're focusing on the negative side of that. So it includes our conscious thoughts as well as our unconscious assumptions or beliefs. And that's really key, assumptions and beliefs. We're going to talk about that more later. So much of our foreshadowing, much of our self-talk is reasonable. Something like, oh, I'd better do some preparation for that live webinar we have coming up, Courtney. Or I'm really looking forward to the Zumba class tonight. But some of our self-talk is often negative, unrealistic, and self-defeating. So to flip those previous comments, the reasonable sides, it could be, I have nothing of value to contribute to this live webinar. Why would anybody want to tune in? And I feel like Courtney's probably thought that one too.
We've definitely both thought that, I think.
And also, you know what? I am so uncoordinated. I am the worst dancer ever with regards to the Zumba comment.
Which people say to me all the time.
Absolutely.
And I can promise I've never once thought that about anyone who comes to my classes. I thought you're an interesting dancer. But never bad.
I feel like that when I first started, but obviously practice and the more I show up to it, I don't really feel like that so much. It's like, oh, I might just be having an off night and that's fine. But again, that's taken a lot of training. So, like I've just reiterated, a lot of our self-talk is often skewed towards the negative. Sometimes it's just plain wrong. It's so inaccurate. So it's useful for us to keep an eye on the things that we tell ourselves and challenge them as well. So you can test, challenge, and change your self-talk. And you can change some of the negative aspects of your thinking by challenging the irrational parts and replacing them with more reasonable thoughts. So again, takes practice, lots and lots of practice, but you can learn to notice your own negative self-talk as it's happening and then consciously choose to think about the situation in a more realistic and positive and constructive manner.
And usually the more that you practice how to recognize it, and as Laura's talking about it, you have to, in the beginning it is a very conscious choice and you have to recognize it and you have to challenge it, but the goal is the more you go through that and the more you practice it, that challenging will almost happen as a reflex naturally. You'll have a thought and then you'll be like, oh, why did I think that? That's so not true. And that's what we want to build. It's kind of that muscle memory, but in your mental muscles.
No, absolutely. That's a really good way to put it. So learning to dispute these negative thoughts, it's going to take time and practice, but it's worth the effort, right? We want to make the change. So once you start looking at it, you'll probably be surprised by how much of your thinking is inaccurate and exaggerated and focused on the negative side of the situation, because there's always a positive. You really just have to work to see it. So whenever you find yourself feeling depressed or angry or anxious, even upset, use this as your signal to stop and become aware of your thoughts. So again, the thoughts are going to be that trigger, that signal, your cue to reflect on your thinking.
And we actually mean like stop. If you can, like take a full moment.
Absolutely.
Take a time out, walk away from a situation, or like if you're having the thoughts, like take a moment to yourself. Actually do it.
Yeah. Why not? Just excuse yourself for a few minutes, say whatever you need to just give yourself the moment to stop and reflect. So a good way to test the accuracy of your perceptions might be to ask yourself a few challenging questions. So these questions, they'll help you check in on your self-talk to see whether the current view that you have is reasonable, and it's going to help you discover other ways to think about the situation.
And this is where, too, like working with a coach who can help you walk through these questions, because it's oftentimes where it's hard to be honest with ourselves.
For sure.
And that's where having someone who you can talk through these questions with and talk about your beliefs and help to challenge the assumptions and kind of the inaccuracies that you have is a great kind of support system. Or even if you have a friend, like talk through the questions with a friend. It can add that extra layer of like support that might set you up for success in a much easier way.
Well, we are our own worst enemies sometimes, our harshest critics, right? So there's 4 main types of challenging questions. So there's a few categories, 4 categories with a few questions that you can ask yourself under each area. So the first one, reality testing. First question you can ask: what is my evidence for and against my thinking? Likely, there's none. The second question, are my thoughts factual or are they just my interpretations?
That's a huge one.
This is really hard for people to realize. Are you wearing the observer hat
or the judgment hat?
I like that. Likely, your thoughts are not factual. They are interpretations. So you have to almost ask yourself if you need to rephrase it. Like, can this be proven? Instead of factual, can this be legitimately proven?
Would someone else come to the same conclusion that I am?
Am I jumping to negative conclusions? You probably are. Again, it's that tendency to go to the negative. So I think it's safe to assume that you are. And then how can I find out if my thoughts are actually true? So a good way to find this out, if you're having trouble seeing it yourself, ask a friend.
Or a coach.
Yeah. Do some research, whatever you have to do, but involve other people. That's definitely a huge strategy for that.
And you'd be surprised. Like, I think there's a lot of fear about judgment. But oftentimes when you bring up this stuff, there's almost a sense of relief both in you and the person that you're talking to. Because a lot of times, like, they might be having some of the same thoughts. And if you can open that channel of communication again, SHEroes all about women supporting other women. So reaching out and saying, like, hey, this is what I think, this is what I'm feeling today. You might inspire someone to do the same thing, and you might help someone identify something that they're experiencing in their own thought patterns as well.
Absolutely. And it's
so don't be afraid.
No, don't be afraid. It's even just a relief to express a thought that you're having, even if it's negative, out loud. So getting it out rather than kind of internalizing it and holding it in. I often feel, I feel like some of my self-judgment can be kind of silly, and I know as soon as I say it, people are just going to look at me like, really? That's kind of silly. But as soon as I communicate it, I feel so much better. It's like this sense of relief comes over you, and just knowing that other people have a little bit more, like a different perspective, which is one of the other areas we're going to talk about. They can just help you put it into a different perspective.
All right.
Second category. So look for alternative explanations. So are there any other ways that I could look at this situation? Put yourself in another person's shoes. You know, maybe you can say, like you're a good friend. I could just be like, oh, what would Courtney do?
Yeah. What else could it mean?
Absolutely. That's the next one. What else could this mean?
I know. I'm moving us ahead.
So a good answer could be, perhaps you're tired. Maybe you're hungry. You're experiencing some of the hangerness.
100%.
All the time. Maybe you just need to manage your time better. You know, it depends on the situation, but I feel like those 3 examples
cover a lot.
If I were being positive, how would I perceive this situation? So maybe, you know, be gentle on yourself. Maybe it was just a really small error in judgment, and maybe you need to get some sleep. Maybe you need to eat something. All right. So, third area, putting it into perspective. So, is this situation as bad as I am making it out to be? I love this one. So, something that I use with my clients all the time, and I love when they're able to sort of bring it up without me prompting, is little deal versus big deal. So obviously sometimes you have to go over examples of each. Little deal is, oh, my shoelace came untied. Big deal paper cut. There you go. Big deal is, you know, maybe someone close to me passed away, and then working on the in-betweens there. So having that spectrum to know the difference between a little deal and a big deal is huge.
But don't sweat the small stuff.
And don't sweat the small stuff. Absolutely. Your shoelace being untied, it's
identifying
okay.
The small stuff from the big stuff. Yes.
Another question to ask would be, what is the worst thing that could happen?
And you actually have to answer this honestly. I try to do this with my girlfriends all the time, where like the best example I always think of is like people who are afraid to go up and ask, you know, someone they like out. And I'll play this game with them, and it's actually quite fun. So try it with yourself, where you're like, what's the worst thing that can happen? And I'll come with some, like, fantastical story where it's like, yeah, you're going to go up to him. He's going to be so offended that you dared speak to him that he's going to seek out your address. He's going to find you and hunt you down and murder your entire family. And then as soon as I say that, they go,
that's not likely.
Yeah, that sounds really stupid. And I'm like, but that's not going to happen, is it? No. So as soon as you kind of indulge yourself for a minute, it can sometimes
indulging.
It makes you laugh. It can make it a little more lighthearted, you know, things like that. Just a little example game you can play.
Exactly, but again, be honest with yourself. Just tell it like it is. And then on the other side of the spectrum, what's the best thing that could happen? What is most likely to happen? So being realistic. And then, is there anything good about this situation? So what did you learn from it?
That's a big one.
Absolutely a really big one there. And then one of my other absolute favorites is, will
you
this
said
matter?
This 2 seconds ago.
Will this matter in 5 years' time? So I used to use this one a lot. So for example, this is going back a while, but high school. I used to care so much about the grades that I got when I was in school. And even though now I'm in school, but just differently, I look at it from a different perspective. It's a number. It's nothing. It's, you know,
no one asks about your high school
exactly,
grades now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So will it matter in 5 years? Sometimes that's another one you might need to bring in some other people to help give you perspective.
True.
But when you feel anxious, depressed, or stressed out, your self-talk is likely to become extreme. So you'll be more likely to expect the worst, focus on the most negative aspects of your situation. So it's helpful and productive to try and put things into the proper perspective and bring other people into the situation as well, just to get their opinion. So the last category of the strategies around negative self-talk involves using goal-directed thinking. So is thinking this way helping me to feel good or to achieve my goals? Well, if it's negative, it's probably not. It's probably not helping you to feel very good. You probably feel pretty crummy and lousy, actually. And then what can I do that will help me solve this problem? So again, just take a step back, do some problem solving. Just try and think of like how other people would solve it, and then put that plan into action.
And that's where, again, a coach can be absolutely so vital and instrumental for helping you with that specific gap. Because that's sometimes where we can get stuck. We can recognize that there is a problem, But sometimes you just need a helping hand to identify how to kind of navigate out of the situation. And again, don't be afraid to ask for help. That's what we're here for. And now you have access to the SHEroes group that you can ask all of us that question at any time.
Last question is there something I can learn from this situation to help me do it better next time? I love that.
That's a good one.
That's
a really good one.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you guys an example of some negative self-talk that I've had lately. So I was recently in a car accident, and it was not a good situation. But
she's
awful.
okay. That's the most important thing.
I should have led with that. I'm okay. Everyone else is okay. But I really beat myself up about it for a while. And seeing any positives, you think a car accident, what could you possibly learn from that situation? How can you put any positive spin on that? Well, you know what? It really taught me that I need to take a step back and kind of slow down and not rush so much. Because I realized, I wasn't thinking as clearly as I should. I was trying to get from point A to point B quickly, and I learned from it. So it took me...
And that's a good lesson we should all learn.
Oh my gosh,
I know I'm
absolutely.
guilty of that.
I hope you don't have to get into a car accident to learn that. But I'm really grateful in a weird sense, kind of like warped way that it happened. But I did learn from it. It took me probably a couple of weeks to learn from it.
Going hand in hand with like the question number 3 is what positives can come out of the situation. Sometimes it might not be obvious right away, and it's only in retrospect when you give yourself a little bit of time. And again, it's that hand in hand with being gentle with yourself. Oftentimes when we have some space, in hindsight, you're much more able to see the positives. So try to remind yourself of that when you're in the thick of the situation too, that you don't have a lot of clarity. There's a lot of emotions that are going on. Again, be gentle with yourself, give yourself some time. And you can always come back to these questions after the fact too, to help you. Again, as Lori said, she was having these thoughts after a specific situation happened. There's no timeline associated with having to challenge negative self-talk. So you can do this all along the different parts of the way, even after an event has happened or something,
Absolutely. So. And it's like you said too, Courtney, it's really hard in the moment to stop and see the light or the positive side of it. So.
And even if someone points it out, how many times has that happened when like you're pissed or you're mad at somebody or you're sad and somebody's like, well, don't worry, Lori, like that. And you're like, no, so not hearing it.
So for that, the police officer saying, oh, this is the 3rd accident I've been to tonight. That doesn't make me feel any better. How is that going to shed some positivity there? But anyway. So even just realizing that, this is sort of an extreme, an intense moment, or it's more negative, and just know that while you're feeling that in the moment, it's going to pass.
It's temporary.
Exactly. Yeah. So recognizing that your current way of thinking might be self-defeating, and that it doesn't make you feel good or help you to get what you want, can sometimes motivate you to look at things from a different perspective. So you can conquer your negative self-talk by challenging yourself with these questions that we just went over every time you catch yourself thinking something negative to yourself. So create a cheat sheet, even just to carry with you, of just a few of those questions to just in the moment, you can kind of grab it and just say, oh, I'm going to ask myself this question, just to kind of take a step back, do some self-regulation, and put some perspective on the situation.
And if you want us to create you a cheat sheet, leave your comments down below, and we can definitely do that for you.
No problem. So an activity that I would like us to do now is to write down 3 mantras that you can repeat to yourself, whether it's inside in your mind or out loud, when your inner critic makes an appearance. So, for example, three...
Can I share one that I love? Yes. I actually got this from another coach that I follow, and I think it's really, really relevant to a lot of women, because we all tend to suffer from the fraudster complex, where we kind of doubt our own abilities. So one of my favorite mantras to say to myself is, I have value, and there are people that need what I have right now. And I will say that again and again, because every time I have those doubts of like, I'm not qualified, I can't do this, those type of self-doubts, that's one of my favorite go-to mantras.
I love that.
I have value, and people need what I have right now.
I feel like even practicing some gratitude journaling to write down those moments when you're like, oh, I did something meaningful.
That reinforce the positive.
Exactly.
So what's one of your favorite mantras?
One of mine that I remember, I'm not going to say the situation that I started using it in, because it's kind of awkward, but...
it's a later video.
But in an awkward situation, I was repeating this to myself because I was so uncomfortable. I just kept saying, I am a strong, confident, independent woman.
Oh, I've used that so many times.
I probably said it like 50 times over in my head.
One.
And it really just I don't know if it was the repetitive aspect of it or it was distracting, whatever, but it really helped me kind of calm down and center myself. And
that's a good one. We should have that tattooed on our hands.
Really? Forehead. So when we look in the mirror, we see it. And then another one is because it's that fraudster thing as well, but it's along the same lines of having value, but that I bring joy to others and into this world.
That's a good one too.
I really like that one.
So our next kind of topic that goes hand in hand with this one is discussing failure, because what goes with identifying your own strengths, like we all have good things that happen in our lives, but as we've continued to talk about, a big vein in this is learning to embrace failure and those moments that maybe we did make a mistake or maybe something didn't go quite the way that we wanted it to, and how to turn those into opportunities and strengths. So one of my absolute favorite quotes, I went to see Jim Estill speak earlier this year, and if you don't know Jim Estill, he's the CEO of D&B Products, well, like air conditioners and things like that. But he lives by the motto, fail often, fail fast, and fail cheap. And I fell in love with this as soon as I heard it and as soon as he kind of broke it down. Far too often, we try to structure our lives to completely avoid failure. We don't even want to come near it. We want to do everything possible to be as perfect as we can. We showcase our successes on social media. We're constantly, therefore, seeing the high moments from others. We often live with a mindset that making a mistake, regardless of what type of mistake it is, it will be crippling, shameful, embarrassing. It's going to ruin us forever. There's no coming back from it. And it creates this absolutely enormous pressure to be perfect 24/7. And honestly, having that sort of mindset, like, it's no wonder we feel anxious and stressed. And it's not serving us well. It's not bringing us closer to our goals. And it may be causing us to miss opportunities that come our way.
We have a guest.
Munchkin, our other SHEroes for the evening. She might be coming back and forth. But anyway, it having that mindset might cause us to miss opportunities that come our way in the shape of failure. And I'll kind of break that down as we get a little bit deeper into this topic. But again, I'm going to repeat that for emphasis. Fail often, fail fast, fail cheap. If you got to write this down, this could be a good mantra that you're going to say to yourself every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I love and what really made me connect with this phrase is that it truly embraces failure as a good thing. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's something that I've really worked on in the last couple of months as embracing in my own life and my own mindset. It's something that should be experienced, hence the fail often. It's something that you want to go for rather than avoid. That's a huge mindset shift. It's about seeking it out rather than running away from it. And why is that important? Because failure or experiencing a setback is an opportunity for self-reflection, for growth, and most importantly, for change. We learn about ourselves when we are vulnerable. It forces us to reevaluate and kind of take stock and maybe pivot our stance or where we were going or what our plans were, and forge a new and often, I've never experienced anything but, better way forward.
Absolutely.
Failure is undeniably a part of the journey. There's no avoiding it. So rather than trying to pretend it's not there,
embrace it.
Let's give it a big old hug and welcome it into the room. And what's a neat way of looking at failure is it can be such a good thing, because sometimes, and I've had this happen myself, is experiencing a moment that feels like a failure can also often be something that actually stopped us from going down a path that we should not have been going down.
That's a really good point.
And again, that's something that you can only usually see in hindsight. But I experienced that with my business. I had a different name that I had chosen, and someone pointed out to me some flaws in that name, and in that moment I was like, God, I've already invested so much. I love this name, and it felt like a failure. But now, looking back like 6 months later, I love my new name way more than I loved that previous name. And it's only through experiencing that I could get to that point. So we really want you to try to work on this mindset shift. And it's very easy to communicate now, but it's something that's very, very hard to do, but is just going to come with time and practicing in the moment, after the moment, during the moment, of how to reevaluate things and look at things from a different perspective. So I want to give some famous examples of how failure turned into like a really positive thing. Beatles were turned down at their first audition. J.K. Rowling and her Harry Potter manuscript, she was turned down by 12 publishers.
I know all those publishers are kicking themselves in
I know, right? They made a mistake. That's a failure on their behalf. But 12 publishers. The man who created Netflix first got the idea, which I love, after facing, back in the VHS rental days, Blockbuster, maybe some of you were too young to remember that, but he got a $40 late charge for a VHS, and that spurred him the idea of creating Netflix. I know how many of us would be pissed about getting a $40 late charge. He turned it into a multi-million-dollar global company. Oprah, one of my favorite ones, fired from her first TV job. Again, probably in the moment, none of these people were like, yeah, I'm glad I got fired. I'm glad I got that. But it just goes to show that you never know where that failure is going to take you. So, FAIL, some cute little acronyms that you can write down. It stands for First Attempt in Learning. Again, we want you to think about it as not being an end, but part of the journey. Not being something that should be avoided, but something that you should seek out. So, another activity. Leave your comments down below. We want you to think of the last time that you failed. It could be something big, could be something small, like not getting a squat that you wanted to get, anything. And I want you to write down, and this is the hard part, 3 positive things that came out of that failure. All right? So take your time, think about it. It doesn't have to be something that you share with us, although I hope you do share it with us. But what happened afterwards? What happened after that failure? Even if it's something a long time, actually, it's even better if you can name something that happened a while ago, because maybe you do have that, benefit of hindsight. What did you get out of it? What did you learn from it? How did it make you see things differently? How did it make you change your course? The more that you can do that and take those moments to self-reflect, the more that you will see your actual real-time examples of how failure has served you well. So, in the moment, failure can be frustrating. It can be emotional. You can be angry. It can cause all sorts of negative self-talk things. But the more, again, you practice to learn to embrace it, the more you will be able to bounce back from those things quicker and recognize the positives, again, as they happen rather than after the fact. So it's about really just building that mental muscle memory. And also, the more you'll be able to recognize how to capitalize on those moments to use them as an opportunity to push yourself further. So, part 2, we're gonna speed along. We're gonna try to get on. Since we started like 10 minutes late, we're probably gonna go to like 8:45. But part 2, this is a huge one for both of us, and we've talked a lot about. It's the comparison game. We all do it. I know I'm guilty of it. You're guilty of it too, right?
100%.
Yeah. Social media encourages it. In fact, I think it actually is like the gasoline on the fire for
absolutely.
this one. It makes us feel worse about ourselves and about what our life looks like when we look at other people online. We compare ourselves to people we know. We compare ourselves to people we just met. We compare ourselves to people we've never met, like Hollywood celebrities, Facebook, Instagram, TV stars, magazine covers. They all force feed us a standard of beauty, of health, of lifestyle that just is not only incredibly difficult to achieve, but it's also nearly impossible for the vast majority of people. On social media, we're comparing our own life to the highlight reel of other people's lives. They're only sharing those positive moments. And oftentimes, they're not even real positive moments. It's a carefully crafted image and branding of what they choose to share and project their life to be. So the problem with this, and this is why I called this topic like the missing truths, is that we don't see what's not there on what we're comparing to. We're not seeing the whole picture, but in our own lives, we see the whole picture. We see the bad days. We see the 25 selfies that we took that didn't work well before we picked the one good one. But we don't see that on their end. They don't share those things. So we also we miss out on the editing and the filters and the Photoshop and all those things that took place to provide us with that image that we end up seeing and comparing ourselves to. Like, for example, this was about 2 weeks ago now, Khloe Kardashian was in this big scandal because she shared her 5 tips on how to look skinny in Instagram photos. And people are like, well, we shouldn't look skinny. But that means she uses them. She uses conscious, like, poses and things like that to make herself look skinnier than she might actually be. And then you're comparing yourself to something that, again, has been purposely posed in a certain way to make you believe something that might not actually be true. So the reason why the comparison game then makes us feel bad is because you're guaranteed to fail. You're comparing yourself to something that is not real. And I want to say that again. It's not real. So again, you are guaranteed to feel awful about yourself and feel bad about whatever you have or how you look or anything like that. So that's why we got to stop the cycle. First, we're going to stop the negative self-talk, and hand in hand with that, we're going to stop the negative self-talk and the comparison. That's like the keys to instant self-esteem boost 101.
And being stronger than you think.
And it's why when I'm very careful when I tell people about my own weight loss as a trainer and as a group fitness instructor. I really always try to communicate that it was, yes, I lost 45 pounds, but that was over the course of 3 years with a lot of changes in my life, with a lot of self-reflection. It didn't come overnight, and there was no magic pill that I took, because I want to prepare people that they can absolutely get the same results, but it's not going to happen overnight, and they're going to have to go through that same transition phase. So the first step is staying off social media. And what I mean by staying off social media is not, I don't want you to ban it entirely, but I want you to carefully curate and put some purpose and conscious thought into what you look at on social media. Meaning, if you follow the Kardashians and every time you look at the Kardashians, they make you feel like shit about yourself, then why are you still following them? Yes. Stop looking. Pull the plug. Take them off. You want to remove those temptations. The same way that if you're on a diet, you're not going to have gummy bears around the house. Don't let those people into your life.
And honestly, I'm going to add to that, Courtney. It's not even about just comparing yourself to, like we've been saying with Khloe Kardashian, just celebrities. It could even just be your peers.
Yep.
So I know sometimes what I do when, for whatever reason, I just really want to go down the rabbit hole and downward spiral on social media.
You find that high school person that you haven't seen in 10 years.
I'm like, wow, look at this person. They're working for the government and they're running for this and they've done all these amazing things for their community and whatnot. I'm like, oh, they've done so much. What have I done? I have nothing to offer. And then
But they might be doing the same thing to you right now as we speak.
Exactly. But then it's almost like I get brainwashed and I get sucked into it and I just can't look away.
But this is a really good segue. So the second step is then to surround yourself and fill your social media with people who are positive influences in your life, people who inspire you, people who empower you, people who make you want to be a better person. There is a famous quote by, I'm going to get his name wrong, Jim Rohn. I wrote it down just to make sure. He's a motivational speaker, and he famously said that you are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. And there's actually research that shows this even extends to your income, meaning you tend to have the average income of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. They are a huge factor in our lives. This is friends, family, coworkers, anybody, role models. These are the average of the 5 people, because if you think about it, you have to make a very conscious choice about who you surround yourself with, especially if you're making big changes to your life. So obviously this becomes a little bit hard with family, but we're really then talking about friends. Again, social media, the people you follow, the people you look up to, the people you share your journey with, because you need to make sure you're surrounding yourself with people who are a source of motivation and not temptation, especially when it comes to stuff like health and weight loss. Do they criticize you? Do they encourage bad behavior? This is often something that comes up with family, If you grew up in a big Italian family that loves pasta and you say, hey, I'm trying to avoid refined grains, they're going to be like, hey, what's the matter? Like, why are you not eating my food? And they're going to make you feel bad. And so you have to consciously surround yourself with people who will say, good job, way to make that choice. Let me do whatever I can to help you meet that goal. And sometimes that even means choosing people who have similar lifestyles to us. And it may mean kind of having, obviously we're not telling you to ditch your friends, have your group of friends, but it may mean you have kind of group of friends A and group of friends B, that you kind of purposely seek out certain people who check certain boxes or meet certain criteria that, again, push you forward. So this is time for another activity. Identify your tribe. So important. So I want you to write down right now who you want your tribe to be. So this can either be the 5 people that you currently have in your life that meet this criteria of pushing you forward, making you feel better, motivating you, inspiring you, all those good, positive adjectives. Or if you don't have those people in your life right now, we want you to identify maybe some people that you know, or you maybe don't even actually know yet, but who you can reach out to bring them in as part of your inner circle. So, once again, 5 people. Average of 5. So, if you have some people you want to share, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And now, after that
favorite strategy. So part 3, before we wrap it up for the evening, we're going to talk about some goal making. So a specific strategy that I have used, it's called SMART goals, and it's an acronym.
S-M-A-R-T.
S-M-A-R-T, and it does stand for something. So
it's probably something that you've heard before. It's a pretty common term for goal making,
yeah,
but it's not
absolutely.
truly understood. So we're going to break it down for you.
Yes. So again, let's be honest here. Anyone can do or learn anything on their own. But the likelihood of achieving and succeeding in reaching these goals is a lot less when you don't have that solid support system or your tribe, that support network in place. So another important element, which is going to help you see results, is this goal setting, making SMART goals. So this is something that I have used with clients, especially with fitness coaching, and in my own life that I have found the best results with. And there's a reason for it. It's specific and it's detailed. So I'm going to go over what the acronym stands for. So S stands for specific. You need to write down a detailed statement clarifying who, what, where, when, even why, and how your goal is going to be accomplished.
And we mean like super specific.
Oh, absolutely. Like, this isn't just like, I want to lose 5 pounds.
This is like,
not a SMART goal.
I'm going to lose 5 pounds by this date and by doing the following thing.
Exactly. So the who, it's yourself. So I want to, or I will, and then we'll fill in the blanks. The what is the premise of the goal. So it could even be something like learning to meditate. I will learn to meditate. The where are you going to get the work done to accomplish this goal? So by attending classes, certain locations, either in your own home. And how are you going to do it? It's the method. So again, it's the classes. Are you going to read a book about the subject to learn a little bit more? Maybe watch some videos on YouTube and identify the requirements that you need to reach your goal. And then the when. In this aspect of the goal, and for the S specific, it can be a little vague. Give a timeline, but more so maybe focus on the frequency, how often you're going to work to achieve the goal. So whether it's I'm going to practice meditation at home by watching a YouTube video 3 times a week. We can even be more specific. At 7:00 p.m. after dinner's done, the kids are whatever, and more detail, the better.
And this is, again, this kind of realistic piece of how quickly something can actually be done. Again, something that if you're talking to a friend or especially a coach, through our knowledge and our experience working in health and fitness, we have a really good idea of, based on, we can help you see compared to where you're at, how long it will realistically take you to get to somewhere. And that's an important piece, because oftentimes, and I've had this so many times with clients, they'll be like, I want to lose 10 pounds by the end of the month.
Wow.
Right? Like, it doesn't sound like much. And I've seen I can't tell you how many things on Facebook I have seen from other, companies or coaches being like, you will guaranteed to lose 10 pounds or guaranteed to be this. And it's just, again, it's one of those things, it's one of my pet peeves, because it's if you don't set yourself a realistic goal, again, you're going to be guaranteed to fail, and this feeds into everything that we just spoke about in the first two. Mm-hmm. It can feed into those negative self-talk loops. It can kind of demonstrate that you that all those things are true for you, but it's not that you failed and that you didn't meet your goal. It's that you didn't set a good goal to begin with in the first place. So of course you weren't going to meet it. So this is a really important piece. And once again, please don't be afraid to reach out and ask us for help or reach out to the group. This is a really good time to ask for that support.
Yeah. And you know what? If your goal, it could be the most well laid out goal, best planning, best intentions, and maybe it still just doesn't quite work. You can revisit it. You can tweak it.
Nothing is written in stone.
Exactly. I think when you realize that, that's shown growth too.
And it's empowering.
Absolutely. So, S, specific. M is measurable. How are you going to track the progress and make changes in your goal? So you need numbers here. You need that factual information. So something that you can use, weekly logs. You know, even finding something on Pinterest. There's often really good like planning templates and whatnot, even if it's just like something
Thank
like
God
a weekly
for the
meal
internet,
prep. Pinterest is my best friend, honestly. Even just a simple notebook. Like, you don't need anything fancy. Keep it simple. Just something to write down and track, whether it's, you know, if you're meditating the 3 times a week at 7:00 p.m., Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like I said. Just a notebook to kind of like check off, maybe print a calendar, post it on your fridge so it's right in your face, just something super simple, but it's going to provide that sense of accountability.
And don't be afraid to do this online too. Like, I know a lot of women who have maybe their personal, because we don't want to annoy our friends too much, their personal Instagram, and then they have their specific like goal Instagram where they're sharing, you know, that's where they share the photos of their meals, or that's where they share their before and after pictures. So that's like really, you could create these little, or use certain websites that are meant for it, like the Carrot app. That's another great free one that, you know, pays you to meet and track your goals. So
absolutely, just tracker apps in general on the phone and various social media websites there. Even alarms, setting an alarm on your phone to remind you to do something, because it's really easy to get caught up in just the daily goings on.
Oh, how many of us do that? You're sitting at a desk and you're like, wow, oh my God, 3 hours have passed and I haven't moved.
Exactly. So setting an alarm to just kind of wake you up, distract you from what's distracting you in a sense, and help you put focus back on the goal rather than what you're currently focusing on. So again, you need to use data, use numbers. So think how much or many. How will I know when it's accomplished? So
that's really important.
Yes. So that could be that, you know, if it is losing 10 pounds, it could be losing 10 pounds. That's a number. You'll know when it's accomplished because you've lost 10 pounds.
Yeah, but why this is so important is because if you don't have a point specified that you can recognize when you have finished that goal, often what ends up happening, we don't end up taking the time to stop and celebrate those accomplishments when we get there, and we get kind of caught up in like moving on to the next thing. And it's so important to take a moment and appreciate the positive, like we've been talking about, right? Like, celebrate the positive and have that end finale moment. So you gotta set that from the beginning so you know where you're headed.
Yeah, Courtney's foreshadowing a little bit to R, but we're not there yet. So accountability through tracking especially, it allows you to stay on track, reach target dates, and experience that exhilaration of achievement which kind of spurs you to continue on in your effort and just reach for more even. So that's, I think, why the M, the measurable, is so important. So A is attainable. So you need to explain why it's in the realm of possibility for you to reach this goal. So it could be attainable or achievable if that's easier. So talk about previous experience. Maybe you've taken some classes before. I'm just thinking meditation. I'm going to keep going back to that. Maybe you've taken a couple classes before, or you've read a little bit about it. There's some previous knowledge there. Some skills, you know, maybe a certain style, or you have that support system in place to kind of help keep you on track. Even resources, like you're setting time aside for it, or you have money to spend on, you know, equipment or whatever's needed for it, and it's an interest. That's going to help you achieve it because it's something that you're clearly thinking about and want to put energy towards. Previous goals that have allowed you to get from point A to where you are now. So maybe you weren't exercising at all before, so you've done all of these other goals previously that have led you to here, so you know you can accomplish it because you've done similar things before. And also your strengths. So what personality traits can you bring to this to help you accomplish it? Are you a motivated person? Do you thrive under, I don't want to say pressure, but even like a deadline, something to kind of just like get you there?
Edge.
Ooh, yes, absolutely. That's a really good one.
And again, working with a coach can help you identify all of these things if you're struggling.
And remember, you have to be willing and able to work towards this goal. So if writing this out, you're like, oh man, this sounds really hard. I don't know if it's something for me or if I'm ready for it. Tweak it, maybe create a new goal. So remember, you need to be motivated enough and willing to make these changes. So you can say, I'm going to do this, that, by then, this way. But remember, you need to be willing and able to meet these deadlines and expectations that you're setting for yourself.
And that's really important because I think that there is a lot of misconception, and this will be a future topic 100% that we're going to cover when it comes to like motivation and realistic expectations. But whenever you're doing anything change related, it's gonna be uncomfortable. So try to keep that in mind when we're thinking about the attainability and when we're setting our goals, is you have to be willing to embrace that it's gonna be a little bit uncomfortable for the first little while, especially if you are trying to make big changes in your life. So embrace it as much as you can, and then we're going to come back for that in a later webinar series to talk about that in more detail.
Yes. So then R is reward. So Courtney was foreshadowing this one. So for this, I struggle with this one. I will be honest.
Hard, but it's really, the best part when you do it.
Because, so I'm going to be honest. I don't believe in using food as a reward, because it can create this negative relationship with food. And
again, we're going to have a whole other video series. That one's going to be coming in May.
Yes.
May, right? Yeah, May. We're going to talk about relationship with food. But I am so on board with Lori on this.
I really strongly advise and believe against using food as a reinforcement. If it's healthy food, maybe it's like trying a new recipe. And
there's a difference between food as an experience. But the more that you think of that bad food as a reward, the more you're going to think about your current status as being deprived, of having to sacrifice, and you're giving up this amazing thing. Anyway, we could talk about it for hours, but I agree. Don't try to avoid food related rewards,
especially the junk food, for sure. So unless your goal is learning to cook, then embrace food.
But again, difference between healthy food and cheap food.
Absolutely. So a reward would be putting your accomplishment to use. So if it's, you learned how to meditate, maybe you've taken some classes, maybe you're training to be like
maybe go on a meditation retreat, something like that.
Exactly. So
or introduce it to a friend.
You're benefiting yourself more, but you're putting the skills that you've acquired through reaching your goal to use. And I find that's more gratifying than any food reward ever will be, because that's in the moment, that's like an instant gratification, where this is a little bit more sustaining and fulfilling. Also scheduling me time, so time to put this new goal into practice, allowing yourself a dedicated day like the retreat, for example. Set that time aside to be able to put what you've learned into practice. Huge. So that's R, reward. The last one, T, is time. You need to be specific. We're talking day, month, year, start to finish. You need to have that timeline. So it creates a sense of urgency and kind of grounds you also, so that it makes it more realistic in a sense. It's like, it's not some lofty thing. Oh, I want to learn how to meditate, but I'll get there eventually. No worries.
Just think of sales, right? How many times you start limited time offer? You have to only this week only.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, oh well now I have to buy it.
Yes.
It's the same thing. We want to create that excitement, that energy, that, as Lori said, urgency for yourself in your own life and your own goal.
Yeah, and to just drive you to complete and accomplish your goal. So again, be realistic though. I can't say that enough. Be realistic when you're setting your goals. So with SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, reward, and time. So be specific, be detailed. The more information you can put, like your goal could literally be a whole page written out, honestly. It could be like a journal entry, right? Yeah. And that's just going to set you up for more likelihood of success in reaching your goals.
And we'll give you more strategies on how to set this. Like a big one that I use is making vision boards. So we'll probably have a vision board, and like again, sharing with friends and working with a coach. There's so many things that we can do that will help you guys with.
And if you guys want a little template of the SMART goal, I can send you. I have a little file. I'm happy to do that. Just let me know. Reach out to us. Comment below. And I'll just send you an email with my template. Super simple. It's just like blank. You fill it in. And if you have any questions, please ask.
All right, so that's part 3.
That's it. Yay.
So the key takeaways that we want you to take with you today. Number 1, using mantras and trying to instill that sense of positive self-talk and thought pattern. So really trying to take that time to stop yourself in an event or in kind of a bad mood or bad kind of moment in your mind as it's happening, and start to try to replace those thought patterns.
Ask yourself those questions that we talked about earlier.
Number 2, build your tribe. Surround yourself with those people that make you feel good and make you inspired and excited to push towards a better you and a better future and like achieving all your goals. And then number 3, smart goal setting. How to set goals, how to set goals that will work for you, and how to create that framework to get you to the next level. All right, so those are your 3 key takeaways: mantras, positive self-talk, tribe, and goals. All right. So that is our first live webinar. Yay! We hope that you guys really enjoyed it. Please, even if you're not tuning in live, we want you to share your responses with us. Feel free to share your responses to the activities, your thoughts, your questions. We will be responding to the video. This will be live for at least the next 7 days. If you guys, based on your feedback, we might leave it on a little bit longer, so let us know if that's something that you're interested in. And then we're going to see you in May for our next live webinar. We're going to be doing another one all about food and your relationship with food, and how to create really good, healthy, positive relationships with what we eat.
Yeah, so stay tuned for more information on that. We'll give you more information around like what specifically that looks like for the webinar, and also the time and the day that we're going to be posting it. And then if you have a topic suggestion, something that you want us to cover,
any feedback at all,
let us know. Honestly, again, no silly question, no silly thought, just send it our way. Honestly.
And we have created, as I mentioned, I'll put a link to it in the event, and I'll try to put one on the video below, of this SHEroes Facebook group. So we're going to start this dialogue. It'll allow you to connect with other women and have this kind of ongoing conversation apart from the actual events themselves, and it'll allow you to keep in touch with both Lori and myself on an ongoing basis. And it's a great place to kind of share your goals, ask questions, connect with other people, and just continue the girl power day in and day out. It's one of those examples of a good social media presence, right?
They do exist.
And so, yeah.
Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Yeah, please, as I said, make sure, even if you're not tuning in live, leave your comments and questions down below. We will definitely respond. And we're so excited. It's something that we're so passionate about, and we really just want to help you guys feel awesome.
Yeah, just be better you.
And share some of the experience and, should I say, wisdom that we have?
Sure.
And fun. It's so hard to make friends as an adult. So any way that we can help you connect with one another and connect with people that will help you in your life. So
absolutely.
That's SHEroes. So thank you so much for tuning in. And we will
we'll see you soon.
See you again soon. Now I have to figure out how to shut this down.
This might be awkward here for a moment.
All right, well, lots of love. Kisses. Oh, we're off center
wine.
too. Oh, no. Going back to you. All right, yes. Oh, let's do a final shake. Oh, I don't have very much left.
Oh.
Cheers. Happy SHEroing. Go out there now. Implement all this stuff. Oh, and actually, that's one thing. Keep us updated. If you start to make progress in your goals and implement these things in your life, let us know how it's going. Please share. We love to hear. All right. Have a good night, and we will see you all again soon.
Bye.
Bye.